The office had become a second home, with photos of family and a few plants to liven up the space. I'd never had any reason to feel uneasy there, until the notes started appearing. It was a Monday morning when I found the first one. I arrived at my desk, set my coffee down, and opened my drawer to grab a pen. Inside was a small folded piece of paper, my name scrawled on the front in neat handwriting. At first, I thought it was a harmless joke, maybe a leftover from a team-building exercise I'd forgotten about. But as I unfolded the note, a chill ran down my spine. The message inside was brief but unsettling. "I know what you did last summer." My mind raced. What could this mean? I hadn't done anything out of the ordinary the previous summer. No secrets, no scandals. Just a normal vacation with friends. I laughed it off, chalking it up to a prank by a coworker with a strange sense of humor. I crumpled up the note and tossed it in the trash, determined to forget about it. But the notes kept coming. Every few days, I'd find a new one waiting for me. They appeared in my desk drawer, slipped between papers, or even tucked under my keyboard. Each note was more personal, containing details that no one else should know. My childhood fears, my anxieties, even things I had never spoken aloud to anyone. The handwriting was always the same, perfectly neat, with a slight slant that was unfamiliar to me. The messages, however, were anything but neat. They hinted at my insecurities, my deepest fears, and always ended with a vague but unsettling statement like, "I'm closer than you think or you can't hide from me." By the third note, I started to grow paranoid. I began looking around the office, trying to catch a glimpse of someone watching me or sneaking away from my desk. But nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Everyone went about their business as usual, oblivious to the turmoil churning inside me. I confided in a close friend at work, Sarah, hoping she might have some insight. She listened intently, her brow furrowed in concern. "Are you sure it's not just someone playing a prank on you?" she asked, trying to reassure me. But the look in her eyes told me she was just as unnerved as I was. "Maybe you should talk to HR," she suggested. So I did. I went to HR, feeling a bit foolish but needing to do something to regain control over the situation. The HR manager, a stern woman named Mrs. Dempsey, listened to my concerns with a stony expression. She assured me that they would look into it and asked if I had any idea who might be responsible. But I didn't. I had no enemies at work, no one who would go to such lengths to unnerve me. Days passed after my meeting with HR, and I heard nothing. No updates, no explanations. I began to feel like I was losing my grip on reality. Every time I opened my desk drawer, my heart would race, expecting another note. But for a while, there were none. Just as I started to convince myself that it was over, that maybe HR had quietly dealt with the issue, the notes returned. This time, they were worse. The messages were no longer just cryptic, they were disturbing. One note simply read, "I know you're scared." Another said, "You're not safe here." The last straw came one Friday afternoon. It had been a long week, and I was exhausted. As I sat at my desk, trying to focus on finishing a report, I opened my drawer to grab a file, and found another note. My breath caught in my throat as I read it. "I'm watching you right now." The words sent a jolt of fear through me. I felt a sudden, intense pressure on my chest, like a weight pressing down. My hands trembled as I clutched the note, my mind racing. The room felt suffocating, and the air was thick with tension. I felt a gaze on me, heavy and invasive. My heart pounded in my chest as I slowly turned around, expecting to find someone standing there, staring at me. But the office was empty. The cubicles were deserted, the usual hum of conversations and ringing phones replaced by an eerie silence. It was late in the afternoon, and most of my colleagues had already left for the weekend. The lights overhead flickered slightly, casting long shadows across the room. I stood up, my legs shaky, and walked around my desk, scanning every corner of the office. I checked behind partitions, peered into empty conference rooms, even looked out the windows. But there was no one. The feeling of being watched lingered, gnawing at me, but I couldn't find a single soul. My rational mind told me it was just my imagination, fueled by the paranoia the notes had stirred up. But a deeper, more primal part of me knew better. Unable to shake the fear, I gathered my things and left the office in a hurry. I didn't look back, afraid of what I might see, or not see, if I did. That weekend, I barely slept, haunted by the thought that someone out there knew me, knew my fears, and was toying with me. When Monday came, I dreaded returning to work. When I arrived, my desk was just as I had left it. I hesitated before opening the drawer, my heart pounding in my chest. But there was no new note, no sign that anything had been disturbed. For a brief moment, I felt a surge of relief, until I noticed something else. The note from Friday was gone. The one that had said, "I'm watching you right now." I had left it in the drawer, but now it was missing. Someone had taken it. A cold dread settled in the pit of my stomach. Whoever was doing this was closer than I had ever imagined. I went back to HR, demanding answers, but Mrs. Dempsey seemed more annoyed than concerned. "We've checked the security footage," she said curtly. "No one has been tampering with your desk. Are you sure you didn't misplace the notes yourself?" Her words stung, and I left the office feeling more alone than ever. The notes had stopped, but the fear remained. I could no longer concentrate at work, always feeling on edge, always looking over my shoulder. I never found out who was behind the notes or how they knew such intimate details about my life. But the experience left a scar, a lingering sense of unease that I could never quite shake. Even now, I sometimes catch myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone standing there, watching me from the shadows.